Good morning. We've been sitting with Jesus on the banks of the Sea of Galilee. He has put his miracle working campaign on hold and has gathered around those followers that have accompanied him, and he is telling them about who are those to and through whom the kingdom flows. Today we'll say, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Jesus taught us that peacemakers are blessed. Before we can understand what he meant, we have to unpack the idea of what God's peace refers to. What does peace mean when we find it biblically, when God uses the term? And then after we talk about what peace is, then we'll be in a position to talk about peacemakers. On the last evening of his earthly existence, Jesus spent the evening talking to men whose lives would be turned upside down in less than 12 hours. He would be taken from them by force and executed. They would run for their lives. They were anxious. Their hearts and minds were troubled. They knew something disastrous and cataclysmic was about to occur. And this is what Jesus had to say. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. So in this context, he gives them his peace. Again, it's important to understand that he is speaking to people whose minds are besieged with troublesome thoughts. They feel anything but peaceful. They understand what's going to happen. They are frightened. They're agitated. They're upset. They are feeling insecure, and Jesus gives them his peace. This is the gift he gives them. Apparently, peace is a relevant gift for those with troubled hearts. What is God's peace all about? The word peace means well-being. It means wholeness. When someone has peace, when we think of it from a biblical perspective, they're in a good spot. They're in a secure spot. They might not feel that they're in a secure spot, but the fact is that they are. During Jesus' time on earth, Israelites greeted one another with the saying, shalom. Shalom is the Jewish word for peace. It was said as an expression of hope, which meant I hope that everything goes well for you. I hope that you have what you want. When I was in China, we learned a basic greeting, ni hao. Ni hao, ni means you, hao means well. And it was expression of you well. I hope that you are well. It was a greeting. When Jesus says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you, he went on to say, I do not give to you as the world gives. From the lips of people, shalom or peace expresses possibility. From the lips of Jesus, it didn't have the same sense. When Jesus gives peace, he is not expressing possibility. He is expressing certainty. He's not saying, I hope that things go well for you. What he's saying, things will go well for you. Because Jesus is God, he has the power to assure peace. God's peace is not an expression of longing, but an expression of certainty. Or to put it another way, God's peace is a fact, not a feeling. Raises a question. Do you have peace? I have to make it a little bit more specific. Because the answer to that, some of you might say, yeah, I have peace. I feel pretty good. We had a nice Thanksgiving. I feel good about where my life is headed. I feel better. I've checked in with family. But let's be more specific. Do you have God's peace? And your answer might be, well, I don't think so because I feel anxious. If that's our response, we really don't understand God's peace. If we have God's peace, we have it whether we feel like we have it or not, because God's peace is a fact, not a feeling. God's peace is not necessarily something we feel. It's something we believe. It's addressed to our faith, not our feelings. Jesus says, I give you peace. I don't give you as the world gives. Peace is a gift to those with troubled hearts. It's also a gift to those with troubled lives. A little bit later on in the same evening, where Jesus talked about, I give you peace not as the world gives, he had more to say about peace. He said, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. He says God's peace is not like the world's peace. Jesus commented on the troubles his disciples would face in the remaining years of their earthly lives, and he was very specific with them that things were not going to go well for them. In the world, peace is associated with the absence of troubles and the removal of danger. That's what peace means as we think of it on a horizontal frame of reference. If the possibility of threat has been decreased, the possibility of wellness had been increased for whatever reason, then we say that we have peace. God's peace is not tied to the absence of danger. God's peace is associated with troubled lives and troubled hearts. It is not really about the absence of danger. God's peace is not. Not about the absence of threat. It's not the absence of things that might be difficult. It's not about the absence of anything, God's peace. It's about the presence of God in the context of difficult circumstances. It's not something we feel, it's a fact. When God's with us, we have peace. We are going to land in a good place. That helps us to understand peace. What about peacemakers? The only other biblical writer to use the word peacemaker is James, Jesus' half-brother. James is in a position to comment on peacemaking because he spent his younger years growing up with a peacemaker. He was able to observe what Jesus was like, was able to observe how Jesus responded when he was threatened. He knew that there was something different about Jesus. He saw it. Now, even he didn't believe in him, but he knew Jesus was different, so he writes about peacemaking, and well, that's what he says. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show it by his good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy or selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, of the devil. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. He goes on to say, but the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers, and there's our word, peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. Peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. The seed whose fruit is righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace, by peacemakers. They use gentle influence. And James here distinguishes two kinds of wisdom. There's wisdom from below and wisdom from above. We all have an idea of what wisdom is. And biblically, it comes in two varieties. There's the wisdom from below. That's natural. It's default. Then there's the wisdom from above. That's the kind that comes from an experience with God in which He cultivates this peace. It doesn't happen right away. The wisdom from below, well, look what it says. The wisdom from below is associated with envy. This word envy has to do with harsh zeal. It's someone who says, I'm right. I'm right. That's what harsh zeal is. It's not just having an opinion, it's to force the opinion on somebody else. It's to find somebody who disagrees and try to force them into compliance. I'm right. And the word for selfish ambition, it has to do with a self-focused, campaigning or recruiting spirit. It's not just I'm right, it's people should see things like I do. That's what selfish ambition is. It's recruiting individuals forcibly so that they land on your side of the equation. That's what these words mean, and they are associated with wisdom from below. Wisdom from below forces the agenda forcefully, and wisdom from above, well, look at the words that are associated with wisdom from above. It says wisdom from above is peace-loving. That's pretty straightforward, to make peace. Considerate. That word, it's the word, it has the sense of to find common ground. Somebody who is considerate comes into a discussion, and rather than find places of division, they're able to find common ground. Oh, you and I, we both are saying this. They are able to build bridges rather than walls. That's what a peacemaker does. Builds bridges to another person rather than walls. It talks about being submissive. A person who's submissive in the context, it's not a really good translation of the word. That the biblical word doesn't have the sense of submitting. It has the sense of being able to form a consensus. Somebody who finds common ground and through the process of discovering actually starts to build some points of commonality, some consensus. It doesn't happen fast, but that's the thing we'll find with a peacemaker. You know the difference between sowing a seed and trying to force a plant or force something on a person? What does it mean to sow a seed? You don't have to do it all in one fell swoop. You just drop something. And it's not talking about into the ground, it's talking about into somebody's mind. You might have somebody who disagrees with you. What does it mean to be a peacemaker? It doesn't mean that you submit. It does mean that you value peace, that you try to find common ground. You listen, and you know the deal like what you have to do to find common ground? You have to listen. You can't just be thinking about how you're going to rebut what they say. You have to listen and try to find in what way are we saying the same thing. That takes that. And again, this is if you sow seeds. This is how you sow seeds. You try to move towards peace, you find common ground, you try to build consensus. And after that, it talks about being merciful, modeling mercy. Mercy in this sense is not being pugnacious, not being punishing, not being contemptuous. You know what contempt looks like, don't you? Contempt. My dad had a really good contempt look. I've showed you before. It was a mixture of 3 different things. You had to shake your head, and you have to, I can't hit maybe, but you have to do that thing. And then you have to, so you put them all together, and as you say something, so I yeah, you know, that's not being merciful. My dad, he didn't do that all the time. He actually, anyways, but to model mercy means be more agreeable. Impartial actually it's literally not judgmental. That's what the word means. It's not a great translation. Impartial, an impartial person kind of doesn't care which side of the equation they stand on. That's not the word. The word indicates you might have a strong feeling about it. You're not impartial. You say, I think this is right, but you don't push the agenda. That's what it means. It means not judgmental. So in advocating for your point of view, you don't treat a person's view with contempt. You really think that? See, that's being judgmental. It's saying what you think is bad. That's what judgment is. Judgment is to identify something as good or bad. Is it good or is it bad? That's what judgment is. Judgment determines up or down, black or white, good or bad. Somebody who is a peacemaker is not oriented towards good and bad. They don't judge, they listen. They try to find common ground. Now, they have a sense for what they think, but that's not their primary agenda. The agenda is, I'm not trying to force something on you. I am planting a seed. And because I'm planting a seed, I don't need to push you, I don't need to goad you into thinking like I think. Sincere is not hypocritical. Impartial means not judgmental. Sincere means not hypocritical. It's not to smile at somebody and to be ingenuine. What distinguishes the wisdom from above and the wisdom from below? What would you say? The wisdom from below makes war. The wisdom from above makes peace. How do we become peacemakers? It's a good question. Better question. How does God develop peacemakers? Because this is what Jesus is talking about. It's talking about blessed are the peacemakers, for they will see God. They will be called sons of God. James ends up telling us what is involved in becoming more and more a peacemaker, developing the ability to be a peacemaker. Let's see what he had to say. This is in the first chapter, right after he has the greeting, he gets right into it. And he has to get into it because the house churches James is writing to, populated by Jewish Christians, were anything but submissive, consensus, merciful. They were conflicted and hostile. And this is what he says. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Let me tell you what that means. Consider it all joy when you encounter various trials. The word consider it literally means be led to. And here's the thought here. You're in the middle of a difficult circumstance. You think about where that circumstance will lead. You think about what will happen when God has His way, when you come to the end of the road and God's purposes are being accomplished. You push pause and you think about where this will, and this is one of the things that peacemakers have to be able to do. They have to be able to push pause and kind of depress an emotional clutch. You have to kind of breathe and think about, I have to think not just about what's happening now, because if you're disagreeing with me, I'm going to get angry, or I'll submit. What he's telling us to do, stop. Think about where this is going. Where is it going to go? And this is what he says, consider it pure joy when you encounter various trials. What good place are these trials going to lead to? Because that's what it's telling us to do. Think of the place that they will lead to. What good is going to come from experiencing trials? Are you going to feel good about experiencing trials? Are you going to feel peaceful about experiencing trials? The answer is, I hope not, because that's being hypocritical. To be honest, to say, I don't like trials, so why should I try to paint a happy face on a trial? Let's find out. He said, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. This circumstance I'm in, is it bad? Now, I might not like it, but does that mean it's bad? You know what it says biblically? God causes all things to work together for good, to those who are called according to his purpose. Let's put things on a sheet. This is bad. This is good. Okay, you got that? Bad, good. Okay, let's populate this. What is bad in your life right now? What would you put on this side? Might be emotional, might be vocational, might be financial, might be social. Can you think about what goes on this side? Okay, now there's the good side. And this is, boy, I had a great Thanksgiving meal. I still have family in, and for some that would be a bad thing, but it's a good thing. And there's all kinds of things that can go on this side, and so there's bad and this is good. You know what it says? God causes all things to work together for good. So, you know what we have to do with this bad side? We have to depopulate it. Because for those who are connected to God, all this goes over here. What's in the bad side? What's in this side? Nothing. He causes all things to work together for good. Does that mean that we should like where we know? It means that when we think about where the road will end, where the road's going to end, I want you to think of those things that they feel bad. You know what's going to happen because of these things? At the end of the road, learning to trust God and to figure out how we can hold the tension of this, do you know what that's going to lead to? Being a peacemaker. Is that a good thing? Jesus says so. He says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons and daughters of God. And that's kind of what James is talking about. Think about where it's going to lead, where the road's going to lead. You're experiencing things that are very difficult. You're not going to smile about it. You're not going to make a fake, oh, everything's wonderful. It's not wonderful. You think about where it's going to lead. We've talked about this before. We have a tendency to try to figure out, is this a good road or a bad road? What are you experiencing? Is it good or bad? I don't know if I'm on a good road right now. I'm not sure I'm on a bad road. Like we've said before, that's not a real good sheep question. You know, you ask a sheep, is this a good road or a bad road? Sheep goes, they don't know. Sheep aren't really discriminatory. You know, there's brown pasture and there's green pasture. Let me see, I think I'll go over here. That's what sheep, that's not a real good sheep question. Am I on a good road or a bad road? That's the question that we ask, isn't it? Am I on a good road or a bad road? It must be a bad road because. You know what a sheep question is? I told you this before. Not am I on a good road, do I have a good shepherd? That's a sheep question. Because that's something a sheep can understand. And if you have a good shepherd, what does that mean? You land in a good spot. Why? Because a good shepherd is going to cause you to land in a good spot. How do you know? Because that's what a good shepherd does. It says, perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. You know what it's talking about there? Mature and complete, not lacking anything. It's not talking about being happy. It's talking about being useful. Being useful. In what way? Becoming a peacemaker. Peacemakers are able to hold their tension and still stay connected with God. That's what they can do. And you know what they're able to do with other people? They're able to sit with other people and help them hold their tension and connect them with God as well. Sometimes Christians aren't really good at allowing a person to have tension. I know somebody who experienced a very, very difficult thing and finds that most Christians cannot just sit with him. They turn the conversation away, and he says it was shocking to him. They just couldn't stay with it. It's like, oh, well, I experienced this. Or sometimes because he was in pain, and they couldn't stay with him. A peacemaker has experienced enough tension. They've held their pain and held their tension so that they've learned to sit with tension. You know what a person who has learned to sit with tension can do? Sit with another person and help them sit in tension. Is that a good thing? That's what peacemakers do. That's what peacemakers do. They can sit and they can say, well, I got to don't figure anything out right now. Let's just sit. Tell me about what you're dealing with. Well, yeah, I do want to hear about it. Well, see, if I can live with the tension of unwelcome, unwanted feelings, I can sit with you, right? If I can't sit with unwelcome, unwanted feelings, can I sit with you if you promote an unwelcome, unwanted feeling? Can I sit with you? No, I'll have to try to fix you. I'll have to try to change you. Because you need to change? No, because I can't stand the tension. That's what a peacemaker can do. And how do they learn that? That's the hard part. That's the hard part. You know how a peacemaker learns to sit in tension? What's the answer? By having to sit in tension. Having to sit in tension. There's two things that are required to be a peacemaker, discipleship. You have to have right thoughts about God. That's a hard thing, but that's discipleship, right thoughts about God. He's my Father. He's not my judge. He's not my punisher. That's half of the picture. The other one is discipline. Discipline is not being punished. It's being put in situations that surface unwelcome, unwanted thoughts and feelings. You have to know about God, and then you have to experience feelings that force you to hold on to the tension and hold on to God's hand at the same time. It requires discipleship and discipline. You have to go through difficult things. That's what it says, let the testing of your faith allow you to be mature and complete, not lacking anything. It's talking about usefulness. We might think, well, what can I gain if I have to go through trials? It's not just about what will happen to you. It's about what will happen through you. You'll be a peacemaker. You'll learn to sit with other people. Most people who are able to reach out and comfort other people do so with a wounded hand. They know what it's like to be in pain. The person talks about it and they don't judge it. They don't pretend. They're real. What do we do if we find ourselves, and we do find ourselves here, And Mike, I can't breathe. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't think about where I am. I think about it and I think what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen tomorrow, and I just seize up and I choke. What am I going to do? I can't take enough pills. I can't get enough pleasure. And James tells us, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. I need to let you know something, though. There's two kinds of wisdom, and we looked at it, remember? The wisdom from below, it involves envy and selfish ambition. This is not the wisdom that God's going to give. He's not going to allow you to be right all the time. He's not going to allow you to get what you want, get what we want. What's he going to do? He'll develop, cultivate in us the wisdom from above. Peace-loving, considerate, submissive, merciful, impartial and sincere. Difficult things to cultivate. Difficult things to cultivate. God's peace is tied to the presence of God, not to the absence of troubling circumstances. God's peacemakers learn to endure storms in order to help others to do the same. Just a quick verse. That day when evening came, he said, Jesus to the disciples, let's go over to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the wave broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples didn't think real highly of this, that Jesus was sleeping on a cushion, and they're frightened for their lives. They woke him up and said to him, Teacher, don't you care if we drown? So he got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, Peace, quiet, be still. Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? They were terrified and asked each other, Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. They were upset with Jesus because he didn't share their desperation. It seems to be the thing. Sometimes God calms the storm. But in order to be a peacemaker, we have to experience God calming the child, not the storm. The storm is going to keep on going. A couple things we learned. God's peace is tied to the presence of God, not the absence of troubling circumstances. God's peacemakers learn to endure storms a day at a time in order to help others do the same. Let's stand for closing prayer. Father, there's frightening things in our life, things that we don't want to experience. And at some point we wonder, what did I do wrong? And what you tell us is that blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God, daughters of God. And that process of becoming peacemakers means we have to be exposed to discipleship. We have to know that you are a new covenant God. Then we also need to be exposed to difficulties that surface unwelcome, unwanted feelings, so that we learn to touch the feeling and touch your hand at the same time in order to endure the tension, not eliminate it. In order to endure the tension, not eliminate it. Because if we learn to endure it, we can sit with other people as well, help them. We can be peacemakers. Thanks for that in Jesus' name. Amen.